Well, good evening, everyone. Glad to have you here. At this time, we will call the Board of Adjustments and Appeals regular meeting for December 2nd, 2021 to order. And so at first, we have a flag. So if you'd please join me as we stand and salute the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag, excuse me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you very much. At this time, could we please have roll call?
Chairman Taylor?
Here.
Vice Chairman Smith Rodriguez?
Here.
Member Van Dieven?
Here.
Member Wheelis?
Here.
Alternate Member Van Zildjian?
Here.
All right, we have a full quorum, so we are ready to go and do some business. First order up is approval of the minutes of the October 27th, 2021 meeting. Are there any revisions or additions that anyone noticed?
No.
No comments on them? May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes carry it. Okay, a little speech to make here for those that aren't familiar with our operation. All persons who anticipate speaking on a public hearing item must fill out an oath card to be heard on that agenda item and sign the oath contained thereon. These cards are located at the table over here by the entrance to our facility tonight, or may be obtained from the recording secretary. This meeting will be conducted in accordance with procedures adopted in Resolution 24-1997. Those speaking in favor of a request will be heard first, those opposed will be heard second, and those who wish to make a public comment on an item will speak third. The applicant may make a brief rebuttal if necessary. A representative for either side, for or against, may cross-examine a witness. Anyone who speaks is considered a witness. If you have photographs, sketches, or documents that you desire the commission to consider, you must submit these into evidence and will be retained by the city. Please submit these exhibits to the recording secretary. Just in case, if you plan to speak tonight, if you've not filled out a card and turned it in beforehand, it must be turned in before we get to that agenda item. So everybody has their cards turned in? They want to speak? Good. And I'll bring up one other little announcement since we're in close quarters. Check your cell phones. We just got them turned off. So check your cell phones, at least put them on vibrate for the time being. Appreciate that. We did the minutes. We've gone through everything. Staff, have all the items on the agenda for tonight been properly advertised?
Yes.
You switch sides on me. All right. Members, have either of you visited any of the sites or spoken to any members of the public regarding any item to be reviewed this evening?
No.
And I'm seeing no's all up and down the line. All right. We don't have anything on consent. We do have an old business item. Is that what we're bringing up first tonight? Yes? Variance number 13-2021, 1410 Main Street.
Prior to that, we're requesting to make an amendment to the agenda so that the last item, the Titusville Sustainability Action Plan, could be heard first, as it's a presentation from a member of staff.
Oh, okay. Do we have any problems with that being first on the agenda? I see no one, so therefore, we'll move that up then. Welcome.
Thank you all for letting me speak to you tonight. I'll be presenting about the Sustainability Action Plan that the Planning Department is currently working on. I believe I submitted in your agenda packets a presentation of the Sustainability Action Plan, and that's what I'll be overviewing tonight. So to start, what is sustainability? The United Nations defines sustainability as meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So what that means is, how do we sustain life today and for tomorrow? And that's what we're currently working on pursuing a plan to do. So within that, there are 3 pillars of sustainability. The first being the social pillar, that is about the people of Titusville, who is here. How do we uplift all of the community? The second pillar is the economy and our economic needs. How do we grow in a sustainable manner? The third pillar is the environment. This pillar is the one that's most commonly associated with sustainability. How do we become better environmental stewards to this land? And the water that we call home for today and for tomorrow. So that's what sustainability is, and that's what the Sustainability Action Plan will be planning for. So within each of those pillars, we can look at certain action items and focus areas because sustainability is a very broad concept. It can encompass every aspect of our lives. So when we look in the social pillar, we can think of our education system and our schools. Do we provide a valued education? Do we have quality health facilities? Do we have safe streets, homes, and workplaces for our community? Do we have a respect of diversity and a proactive government? In the economic pillar, we can look at fiscal management. Do we have a proper fiscal management? Are we budgeting things correctly? The employment and training. Do we have a workforce that is properly trained for the jobs that are in the area? What is the standard of living of Titusville? Or the home ownership rate, our business diversity, and our resource management. Those all fall under the economic pillar of sustainability. The environmental pillar includes water conservation, energy efficiency. How do we reduce our waste and increase our recycling? How do we promote biodiversity, land preservation, and resource protection? So as you can see, sustainability is really broad, and it touches all aspects of city operations. So within that, the city has previously worked on efforts to pursue sustastainability. We've pursued efforts for energy reductions. Within this own room, all the light bulbs have been converted to LED, and most of our city facilities have self-timing lights, so when there's no one in the room, the lights automatically shut off. That not only saves energy, but it saves the city costs. Water conservation. Our Water Resources Department offers a low-flow rebate that you can replace your faucets in your home to have a better flow of water. Waste recycling. Most of our city's facilities have a centralized recycling system now. Emissions reductions. The city has an extensive fleet vehicles. So many of our vehicles have been converted to reduce the emissions of greenhouse gases. So within that, we can continue to pursue sustainability initiatives, but we want to do it in a responsible manner that is aligned with our community needs. So within that, the sustainability plan is being broken out into 2 phases. The first is a focus area study, where we're doing extensive community engagement, part of the reason I'm speaking to you all today. And then the second phase, once we gather the community feedback and we can get focus areas, we'll do a composition and adoption of the sustainability plan with long-term and short-term strategies so that the city can continue to pursue sustainability. So what have we done already? The sustainability plan community engagement kicked off with the Chamber of Commerce luncheon on November 10th. Shortly after, the same day, we held a stakeholder meeting with organizations throughout Titusville, including the Chamber of Commerce, the North Brevard Economic Business Zone, the Space Coast Transportation Planning Organization, the Sierra Club, the Gibson Center. We got all these stakeholders into a room together to discuss what sustainability means to them and what their priorities are for Titusville regarding sustainability. Then we did a city council meeting where we discussed the sustainability plan with the city council. We went out to the local Christmas craft festival and we engaged with the community at the craft festival, attended Rotary Club meetings and the Titusville business community meetings. And the final leg of the community engagement portion will be next Thursday at the public workshop, where we will hone in and find what those focus areas are going to be. What are the priorities of our community? Additionally, we've been engaging the community online through through our website. You can access the website by typing into your browser tinyurl.com/TitusvilleSAP. Normally we have a presentation on, and you have QR codes that you can scan. But if you visit the project website, you can take an online survey. And that online survey is really helpful for us because it lets us know what the community's priorities are and what you would like to see us do. For example, I hear a lot about the Indian River Lagoon. That's obviously the top thing on everyone's mind. How do we be better stewards to the lagoon, and how do we clean up the water so that the manatees and the seagrass all come back? Another big thing that we hear a lot about is energy. How can we support renewable energy within the city? So we want to hear what it is that the community would like to see the city pursue in regards to sustainability. And if you have any ideas that you would like to share on the project website, again, that's tinyurl, tinyurl.com/TitusvilleSAP. There is an idea wall. You can share your ideas on the idea wall and engage in robust conversation. So we have people who've shared ideas about pursuing energy efficiency in our buildings, pursuing LEED standards when we design new buildings. So you can engage in conversation with people, you can post your own ideas, and it's a really great place to get together and discuss things online in a controlled format. So that's all I have to share with you today. I look forward to coming back and sharing more once we are on to the next phase of the sustainability plan. And if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Are there any questions on this presentation? No? This is my second time to hear it, so I've heard that already. So thank you very much for coming and participating tonight. And has participation, anybody started logging on and giving suggestions yet?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have. We've gotten about, let's say, 7 ideas generated on our idea wall. It's pretty great. And if you don't want to share, you can go in and like or dislike comments. So there's multiple ways of engaging. You don't have to be extremely vocal, but it could also just be a opportunity to learn to see what other people are sharing as well.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you all for letting me present to you today.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. So we'll return back to the old business first. Is that correct, staff? Is that me? All right. Back to Variance 13-2021, 1410 Main Street. And staff, enlighten us, please.
Right, so the item begins on page 9 of the agenda. I'll let you guys take a second to get there. So the applicant Zephyr and Chris Davis are requesting a variance to Land Development Regulations Section 28-392A to allow a variance to exceed the maximum 600 square feet allowed for the total floor area of all detached accessory structures on lots larger than 1 acre on property located in the Office Professional Zoning District at 1410 Main Street. Specifically, the applicant is requesting that the total square footage of all accessory structures be 1,040 square feet in lieu of the 600 square feet. So the surrounding zoning districts: to the north, Office Professional; to the south, Office Professional; to the east, Urban Mixed Use; and to the west, Office Professional. The lot characteristics: the property meets the minimum 100-foot lot width and area requirements in the OP zoning district. The lot size is 45,738 square feet in area and rectangular in shape, with 160 linear feet of frontage on Main Street, 160 feet on Blanton Street, and 314 feet on South Park Avenue. The property is being used as a residential lot. A detached single-family home is permitted use in the Office Professional Zoning District. I'll briefly go over the criteria used when reviewing a variance. Special conditions. Special conditions and circumstances which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved and which are not applicable to other land, structures, or buildings in the same zoning. B, special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. C, granting the variance requested will not confer upon the applicant any special privilege as denied by the ordinance to other lands, buildings, or structures in the same zoning district. D, the literal interpretations of the provisions of the ordinance will deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same zoning district under the terms of the ordinance. E, the variance granted is a minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. F, the granting of the variance will preserve the spirit of the ordinance to remain in harmony with its general purpose and intent. G, in granting the variance, public safety and welfare must be assured. And H, in no case shall the granting of variance result in change of use, which would be permitted in that zoning. So the applicant is requesting a variance to allow more than the maximum 600 square feet allowed for a detached accessory structure in the office professional zoning district. Per section 28-392A, the total floor area of all detached accessory buildings shall not exceed 600 square feet on lots larger than 1 acre. The property measures just over 1 acre, and the applicants did make amendments to their application in order to request a lesser variance. The original request was for a variance of 660 square feet. There are 3 detached accessory structures on the property with a combined 1,260 square feet of area, 660 square feet above the maximum 600 square feet permitted. The applicants constructed a 20 by 15 and 30 by 20 foot pole barns on the property for an outdoor storage shed and a shed to protect the dogs on the property from outdoor weather without applying for a permit. The 2 combined structures measure 600 square feet. One of the two 300 square foot pole barns include a portion that is enclosed, which encompasses 105 square feet of the total structure. The second 300 square foot pole barn is not enclosed, and both structures were erected upon a concrete slab without the permit. The property also includes a detached accessory dwelling unit that measures 660 square feet. The structure includes a portion that is not enclosed, which measures 220 square feet. The applicant proposes to remove the non-enclosed portion so that the remaining 440 square feet is in addition to the 600 square feet of the 2 additional structures. Once again, the applicant is requesting a variance of 440 square feet more than the maximum allowable 600 square feet for the accessory structures on the property. The principal structure on the property measures 1,200 square feet and, according to county records, was constructed in 1922. The property does not include a garage, and an accessory dwelling unit existed on the property prior to the applicant's ownership of the lot. So for recommendation, staff does recommend denial of the request to exceed the maximum 600 square feet allowed for the total floor area of the detached accessory structures. There are no special conditions and circumstances that exist which are peculiar to the land. The lot meets the development standards of the zoning districts, and special conditions and circumstances do result from the actions of the applicant. If the board is inclined to approve the request as the minimum necessary to make the reasonable use of the land, then staff recommends the following condition, which would be to allow the existing landscaping to be maintained so as to screen the accessory structures from the street.
All right, staff, thank you. Are there questions of staff from this presentation?
Yes. Do we have the minutes from the meeting where we previously discussed this matter? It wasn't last meeting, so I didn't see it in this minutes.
If I'm mistaken, the item, we don't have minutes for it, I'm sorry.
There were no minutes
Mm-mm.
from that meeting?
There were
Yeah,
minutes?
Sure, it was a full hearing. I
For-
think it was just.
Was that heard, or was it withdrawn prior to?
No, it was heard.
It was
It was
tabled?
tabled.
We tabled it,
Gotcha.
but that was not last meeting, but the meeting
The
before.
meeting prior.
Is there a particular question you wanted to ask from that meeting, from that?
Well, my recollection is that we had a pretty lengthy and involved discussion over everything, and it would be nice to be able to refresh our recollection and focus our questions instead of redoing an entire hearing where we have already heard most of it and they made apparent adjustments to their request. So, quite frankly, if it's possible for us to get the minutes during this meeting, perhaps we can postpone this discussion, move on to the next variance, that we're not burning more time?
Don't know, we'll have to ask, is that
If it's possible
accessible?
to get the minutes.
I'd have to go back over to City Hall to pick them up, to get them, but it's not gonna be a full verbatim
Right,
because we don't do that anymore.
right. But it would hit the highlights, right?
Not necessarily, no, they don't archive and put all the detailed information in the minutes.
I seem to remember that the discussion included some suggestions and ideas that were relevant to the reason it was tabled for today. I think it's important to highlight that.
Well, maybe we can get staff or the applicant to enlighten us if these
Okay.
suggestions from last time were made. Okay? Any other questions for right now? Okay. Were you at that meeting too? So you heard it, okay.
I was there, yeah,
You were here, okay,
I was
great.
in the audience.
All right, well, seeing no other questions of staff or anything, we will open it up to the public hearing at this time. And who is our first?
The applicant's Kristen Zephyr Davis.
Yes. Welcome back. Even if in a different building, still.
Yeah, thank you. So.
Your name and address
Oh,
for the record, I'm
Zephyr
sorry.
Davis, 14.
You want to turn on the mic on?
Now the red light's on, now you're good. Zephyr Davis, 1410 Main Street.
Chris Davis, 1410 Main Street.
Okay, so in the last meeting, as you brought up, the suggestions were to meet back with the building department to see if there were any other options available to us to avoid getting the actual variance. So we met with, who's your manager?
The guys we met with.
The guy above
Brad
you?
Parrish and Mark Jones.
Mark Jones, and then we met with the building official, I have his name, sorry. Steve Adams and Martin Abel. So we all circled up together and went through a number of different suggestions, which all basically led us back to here. If the suggestion was if we connected the dwelling, the two dwellings, would it increase the square foot? That is not a viable option because for the OP district, you only can have 600 total. So not increasing the square foot wouldn't give us an option. I think the other suggestion,
Was moving it over, but the trees, the
yeah,
city
it's,
probably wouldn't
we
let us
would
cut the
totally have to
trees.
relocate it and possibly attach it to the house, which would be a major demo over there attaching to the house. And based on the houses built in 1922, we don't want to lose any of the
Historic
the
area.
historic-
They said that the trees in that area would more than likely be, we wouldn't be able to cut down. We would have to remove
Right.
really, really big oak trees
right.
from that area to do that situation.
Right. So essentially, we spent probably about an hour kind of talking through a number of different options, all to be concluded, we have no other viable options. We could try to go for rezoning as far as the property is concerned, but based on all the surrounding properties, everything's, office professional, so that doesn't seem like a viable option, because if it was zoned residential, we wouldn't have a problem, we wouldn't have to be here for the variance. So then we went back and said, well, if we removed the 220, we try to reduce the amount that we're requesting. So we revised our request from 660 to 440.
All right, are questions for the witnesses on, so where are the 220 coming from that you're revising?
Once we remove the carport,
Gonna
the
remo-
carport area,
On the dwelling, it's the non-enclosed section,
Okay,
so the yellow area.
right. Okay, the non, where it was just covered over.
Yeah, it's
right.
just covered.
Yeah, I remember that.
that was on the pre-existing cottage that was there when we bought the property.
Right.
Oh, okay, so that was part of the pre-existing.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. As you heard, staff as far as should we consider to accept this variance, the existing landscape being maintained to screen. Not that I was spying, but I do drive up and down Park Avenue. And at this time, I couldn't see, I didn't see anything.
Right.
Right. It's totally covered in trees.
It's, you got the line there, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you would concede to that concession?
Absolutely.
If we did that, to maintain it so that it's properly
Yes, sir.
screened? All right,
Absolutely.
just a question. Any other questions of the witnesses? All right, not seeing any. Thank you very much for coming back today and taking time to meet with the staff. So we'll try to hash some things out. Thank you. Do we have anyone else signed up to speak?
No, sir.
All right, we have no one else to speak, so we'll close the public discussion and bring it back to this commission. Are there any further questions or discussion?
Just to confirm, this relates to the structure and not the concrete slab, right? Okay.
Okay. And this house was there way before this was ever considered to be OP zoning. It was residential.
That's my impression also, that it was, it's been essentially a residential property, has been rezoned out from under the owners of the property.
Right.
And the restrictions are not consistent with a residential occupancy.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, do I bring it up for?
Actually, just
Oh,
one more
question, go ahead.
question or comment. I remember somewhat discussion, but I can't recall exactly, was there businesses or residential right around this particular property? Do you all remember, or should I call them back up?
To the north is OP.
But I mean, the actual
believe
structure.
There's residential on the north, even though it's zoned OP, there's a residence, right?
It's residential surrounding, all surrounding, and to the west, a park. I'm
Okay,
sorry,
so
to the east,
residential-
to the east, that park.
Okay.
So it's all residential except for the park across on the other side. Although the whole thing is zoned OP, which was done in the heyday, what was that, 92, 93? Or when was that done?
I can't-
You're referring to administrative rezone, that would be 1993.
93, okay. I moved here, I missed it, so good. All right. Well, do I have any motions or anything on this variance?
I was just gonna, well,
Okay,
if you have a motion,
discussion.
I was just gonna discuss. I recall this conversation we had last time, and I know that our applicants had put these structures after the fact without a permit, and I remember distinctly thinking and saying, ignorance of the law was no excuse. I also recognize that it's completely shielded by trees that would be maintained, and that it's residential all around it, but for an administrative rezoning. So it's not that it is entirely unreasonable to grant it, but I remind the applicants, which I know they know, that they need to check the law before they do anything.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
I'll make a motion.
Very good. Nice about making it.
With reference to the variance 13/2021, I recommend that we approve it with the stipulation that the existing landscaping be maintained as to screen the accessory structures from the street.
And would that also be to include the removal of the 200?
Yes.
20 feet, yes, 220, is that correct? 220 square feet. Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Very good. Any further discussion? Seeing none, may we have roll call, please?
Chairman Taylor?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith Rodriguez?
Yes.
Member Van Deven?
Yes.
Member Wheelis?
Yes.
Alternate Member Van Zildjian?
Yes.
Very good. So you have succeeded with tearing down just a little bit, not all of it, okay? Thank you. All right. I'm back up to page, what, 5? Nope, that's not it. Thank you, sir. Okay, now we're into new business, and our first order of business is variance number 15-2021 at 15, how do you pronounce that? Irving? Is that correct? Okay. Einig Avenue. Staff, would you enlighten us on this, please?
So the staff report for the item begins on page 37. So the applicant, T-Mobile, is requesting a variance to Land Development Regulations, Section 28-317C, to allow less than the required 25-foot front yard setback, less than the required 10-foot interior side yard setback, less than the required 20-foot rear yard setback, less than the required 20-foot side corner yard setback, to waive the requirement of an increased setback in exchange for each foot of additional building height. The applicant is also requesting a variance to Section 30-332 to allow less than the required 20-foot landscape yard along the public right-of-way, and to allow less than the required 10-foot landscape yard along the interior property lines. A variance is also requested for Section 30-183A4 to allow less than the required 10-foot setback for a high-security fence at property located in the Light Industrial Services and Warehousing Zoning District located at 15 Einig Ave. The surrounding zoning districts to the north are Office Professional, to the south, Heavy Industrial, to the east, Office Professional, and to the west, Light Industrial Services and Warehousing. The property is 6,534 square feet, which does not meet the lot size minimum in the M1 zoning district. The lot has 47 feet of frontage on Orange Avenue and 132 feet of frontage on Einig Avenue. The lot is a non-conforming lot of record as it does not meet the lot width requirement of the M1 zoning. The property has one-story building developed in 1945. The most recent BTR was for a building contractor company that expired in 2015. CUP for the placement of the cell tower on the site was approved by City Council on November 9th, 2021. I've already gone over the powers of BAA, so I'll move ahead to the analysis. So the applicant, T-Mobile, is requesting the following variances. To allow less than the required 20-foot side corner yard setback for a variance of 4 feet 6 inches, reducing the corner yard setback to 15 feet 6 inches. Allow less than the required 10-foot interior side yard setback for a variance of 9 feet 5 inches, reducing the interior side yard setback to 7 inches. Allow less than the required 20-foot rear yard setback for a variance of 19 feet 5 inches, reducing the rear yard setback to 7 inches. To waive the requirement of an increased setback in exchange for each foot of additional building height as specified in Note 1 for the transmission tower. To allow less than the required 20-foot landscape yard along the public right-of-way for a variance of 15 feet, reducing the landscape yard to 5 feet. Allow a variance of 10 feet for a landscape yard along the interior property lines, eliminating the landscape yard. And to allow less than the required 10-foot setback for a high-security fence, reducing the high-security fence setback to 5 feet along the west and eliminating the high-security fence setback along the east. The request is for the placement of a 199-foot AGL monopole-style transmission tower with a support facility on the property. The tower is being proposed in order to replace an existing temporary T-Mobile cell tower located at 155 South De Leon Avenue. Property is located in the M1 zoning district and does meet the lot size requirement for the zoning. The property measures 132 feet by 47 feet and is rectangular in shape. Per Section 28-317C of the code, the required corner yard setback for property in the M1 zoning district is 20 feet. The required rear yard setback is 20 feet, and the required interior yard setback is 10 feet. So for the building setback, the equipment pads will be located on the site for the co-location of towers, which will be leased to other carriers. There is an equipment pad located at the southwest portion of the property, which encroaches 4 feet 6 inches into the required 20-foot side corner yard setback. The applicant stated that the tower and equipment pads will be enclosed by a fence, and that fence will be designated as the compound. The applicant is requesting that the 10-foot side yard requirement be waived, as the compound encroaches into the setback 9 feet 5 inches. The applicant is requesting that the 20-foot rear yard setback requirement be reduced to 6 inches, as the compound encroaches 19 feet 5 inches into the setback. So for the structure height, section 28-317C denotes that 1 additional foot of setback is required for each foot of building height over 35 feet. The applicant requests to waive this requirement, as the property measures 132 feet by 46 feet and physically cannot meet that requirement. For the landscape buffer, the applicant is requesting variances to reduce the 20-foot landscape buffer requirement where the property fronts Einig Avenue, and to limit the 10-foot landscape yard requirement along the north and east buffers of the property. A CUP was approved by City Council for the placement of the tower, with the condition that the applicant provide a minimum 5-foot landscape yard buffer in front of the high-security fence where the property fronts Einig Avenue. Security fence. The applicant is seeking a variance to reduce the 10-foot setback requirement for a high-security fence to 5 feet along the right-of-way, and to eliminate the required 10-foot setback requirement for a high-security fence along the east buffer at the property. The applicant stated that the requested variances are a result of the 47-foot wide lot. The lot is a non-conforming lot of record, being that it doesn't meet the lot width requirement in the M1 zoning. The applicant did provide a fall letter per section 28-220D1A, along with exhibits that illustrate the fall radius of the tower. According to the fall letter and the exhibits, the radius of the tower in the event of fall will occur within the property boundary. A CUP was approved by City Council, as I mentioned, with the condition of the 5-foot landscape yard buffer. So staff did make its findings for the variances, and the findings are based on the criteria used for determining variance and whether or not the variance met that criteria. So for A, special conditions that exist, special conditions, circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved, and which are not applicable to other land, structures, or building in the same zoning. Staff determines that there are special conditions that exist which are peculiar to the land. The lot does not meet the minimum lot width requirement in the M1 zoning district. For criteria B, special conditions, circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. The site was platted prior to 1993 rezoning that determined the existing setback requirements on the site. For criteria C, granting the variance requested will not confer upon the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the ordinance to other lands, buildings, or structures in the same zoning. Staff found that granting the variance will confer the applicant special privileges in regards to the setback requirements and landscape yard buffers that are denied by the ordinance to other lands, buildings, or structures. For criteria D, the literal interpretations of provisions of the ordinance would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same zoning district. Staff found that there could be deprivation of rights by the applicant commonly enjoyed by other properties. As a result of the provisions of the ordinance, the existing lot is a non-conforming lot of record. For criteria E, the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structures. Staff found that in granting the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land. The property is rectangular in shape and measures 132 feet by 46 feet. The lot size proves difficult to meet the required setback of the zoning district, as well as meeting the requirement of an increased setback in exchange for each foot of additional building height. For criteria F, the granting of the variance will reserve the spirit of the ordinance and remain in harmony with its general purpose and intent. Staff found that granting the variance will not preserve the spirit of the ordinance. The required setbacks will be encroached upon. For criteria G, in granting the variance, public safety and welfare must be assured. The staff found that public safety and welfare will be assured if fall zone letter was submitted on behalf of the applicant. And for criteria H, in no case the granting the variance will result in a change of use, which would not be permitted in that zoning. staff found that granting the variance will not result in a change of use, that is not permitted in zoning. So I want to refer you guys to page 45 of the agenda. And looking at the surrounding zonings, we can see to the northwest, about 200 feet out, there is a R1C zoned property. We did want to make mention of that. And also, I did want to mention, obviously, that if you guys wish to, whatever recommendations you guys wish to make, it could be separate, it could be granted altogether. So you guys do have that option as far as making your recommendation, or I'm sorry, your vote. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, are there questions of staff? So the CUP was granted by the city council
Correct.
previously in November, correct? All right. Anybody else have a question for staff? All right. Oh, Jeff?
Probably one of council. Does the granting of the conditional use permit have any bearing whatsoever on our evaluation of the acceptance of these variance requests?
I would say that the two things stand separate. Just because a CUP was granted does not mean that you must grant the variances. Of course, you analyze the property as a case-specific item with this agenda and look at the variances requested for the specified use. The two things are needed in order to ultimately proceed forward with the plan as presented by the applicant, which I'm sure they'll go into greater detail. And if you have further questions about how they interact, I'd be happy to try and answer your questions.
No, thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, seeing no other lights, we will open the public hearing at this time and call our first witness.
Madanaya John?
Welcome back.
Good evening. I'm Matanaya John, 935 Main Street, Suite D1, Safety Harbor, Florida, 34695. I do have a PowerPoint presentation, if it'd be possible for me to coordinate with your IT professionals to have that pulled up real quick. As I said, I'm Matanaya John, and I have filled out a speaker's card. I also have Craig O'Neill with T-Mobile here. Should you have any questions about their RF need, he has also filled out a speaker's card. As you heard, I come before you with staff review for variances that will implement a conditional use to allow a 199-foot tall monopole style transmission tower at 15 Einig Avenue. And you heard that that conditional use was approved by the City Council on November the 9th, 2021. You also heard that the parent parcel was last BTR'd as a small construction business office with related lot and open space. I'm now showing you aerials of the vicinity around the monopole. In these aerials, up is north, and the green marker is the monopole. So this is the far aerial. To the north, as you heard, is commercial property along commercial property, then Garland Street. To the south is M2 Heavy Industrial. To the east are M1 Light Industrial and M2 Heavy Industrial, the concrete plant, then the FEC main line. To the west are Einig Avenue, then Light Industrial mixed uses. The area is generally developed with industrial uses, with office commercial uses along Garden Street. And you did hear that there was one residentially zoned property existing as a standalone spot to the northwest. This is an arrow highlighting the location of the monopole. One thing that you'll notice as we zoom in is that mature urban canopy exists throughout the area, which intensifies as you moved out of the industrial sector into non-industrial uses. And again, up is north, the green marker is the monopole, and then here's an arrow. And then finally, we have our close area. You'll notice that there's mature vegetation existing along the parcel to the north, south, and east that help buffer. And those are sides that we are the north and the east are sides where the buffering is requested to be reduced and an opaque fence be provided in lieu. You heard that the parent parcel is zoned M1 with the future land use designation of downtown mixed use. Communication towers are allowable through the conditional use process. And of course, you heard that was approved back in November. They did review these plans. The only difference between the plans that you are seeing today and the plans that the City Council reviewed when they were making their informed decision is that we have added that landscape buffer that they directed us to provide. This is your zoning map, and then here's your future land use map. This is sheet C1 from the plan set that you have on file. Again, the only difference between this and the one that was before the City Council is that we've added that landscape buffer to the west. The contemplated landscape buffer was 5 feet. They did, when they issued their guidance in their conditional use approval, they said at least 5 feet to give you flexibility in case you want to provide something more like 7, 8, whatever your judgment comes to. We would ask that you maintain 5 feet. Just to give some context here, this red stripe is the width of the buildable envelope under the standard lot setbacks for M1 zoning. That's 2 feet. Do you all know how wide this lectern is? Any questions? How wide? It's 26 inches. Would you like to receive this tape measure into evidence?
We'll take your word for it.
Okay. So as you can see, it's an awkward lot, and it's a very old lot. It predates your modern zoning code. It predates your modern use patterns for this end of the city. And we are requesting relief for the monopole and then also for the compound. As you heard, the monopole itself will provide a fall zone radius that is shown on sheet C1 here. That's pretty standard technology. Up until Hurricane Michael came through, the only example I had for fall zone technology was interstate lampposts. I have memories from when Charlie came through Charlotte County, my apologies, back in 2004, and you'd see that those big interstate lampposts would be folded over upon themselves. It's a pre-engineered crimp point where in a failure mode, it folds upon itself. Hurricane Michael added an actual cell tower example of it where, and I can pull the photo up for you, but essentially the forest around the cell tower is decimated, the area is decimated, the cell tower is in one piece folded over upon itself with its antennas tucked next to its base. So this is not a unproven technology. This is another way to view your buildable envelope. As you can see, the orange areas are all setbacks. We did request setbacks down to 7 inches and 6 inches to the north and the east for the compound itself, not for the monopole. And the thought process is that with the equipment compound, which has the computers and equipment that you need to run the monopole, those sit on slabs, but you're not putting structures there. You're putting cabinets that are the size of traffic light control boxes there, and you'll put several of them in a row on the slab with a generator supporting them that's enclosed in a sound enclosure. So you're not adding the bulk of a structure into the yard space. You're adding a fence, and then above that, that area is open. The only part of the development that moves into the yard space from a structure standpoint, something that's taller than the fence, is the monopole itself. And if you were to compare it against your base setback requirements, you're looking at a 2-foot encroachment. And essentially with the way you look at this, the way this property is developed, this area that is to be converted over isn't yard space, it's the old vehicular use area. So that area is already all gravel. It's not like we are turning landscaped yards into equipment area. If you were to try to Unfortunately, in this situation, we cannot build a narrow compound that runs down the middle where you line up your pads and put a whole bunch of gates on one side. I've done that compound in other situations, but this lot is just so small and the southern end is occupied, you cannot place your pads in that configuration. The other design setback from doing a pad like that is that you would have a bunch of gates facing Einig, which would defeat the purpose of trying to put a landscape buffer in on that side. The other thing to keep in mind is that your neighboring lot lines to the north and to the east are fenced. So if you were to require a landscape buffer, you'd be placing a landscape buffer between two fences. That's when I would respectfully submit to you that in addition to rendering this space unusable, it's also illogical to put a landscape buffer that is completely captive like that. And also it lends itself to creating a space where people can hide, and it just invites, trouble. So we would respectfully submit that the compound as designed actually comports better with CPTED, which is Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design standards. That's actually something that the City of Orlando has implemented on an advisory basis, and they issue that on all their developments. Finally, the variances will preserve the physical co-location capacity of the monopole. And I bring this to your attention because the City Council discussed co-location capacity when they were making their decision about this monopole, because at the time, there was actually guidance from your Historic Preservation Board to approve a slim design monopole that would reduce the co-location capacity of the structure, meaning that you could place T-Mobile up there and then you could have space for essentially 1.5 carriers instead of having space for all 4 carriers should they need it. The thought process behind designing the monopole for co-location is to discourage the proliferation of towers in general in the area. Because if you have the choice between going through the full zoning process and asking for variances and the like, or signing a lease and pulling a building permit, market forces, especially when you have committed on record to provide the monopole at market rates, market forces direct co-locators to the existing monopole. And this is something that, unfortunately, your code doesn't have a guidance clause in it for transmission towers, but actually many other jurisdictions across the state of Florida require you to show that you don't have a tower that you can co-locate on before you apply for a new one. So this is another sound planning principle of communication towers, that you give them space to co-locate. It would be a shame to have gone through the conditional use process, have the City Council adjust the design of the tower so that it can support co-location, only to hamstring that by making the compound unable to support co-location. It would seem to defeat the intent of that approval. Moving on, this is the landscape buffer that is proposed. Obviously, this is still subject to site development review, to site plan review. Your staff has graciously performed one round of site review for us. That way we could hopefully be as dialed in as possible. And these plantings are all the code required plantings, just in a condensed space. So they're not requesting relief from the actual planting buffering requirements. This is a hybrid of the standard yard planting requirement as well as the high security fence planting requirement. And again, on the 2 other external sides, the north and the east, which already have their own neighbor fences against them, that will be an opaque fence with a chain link fence with slats to make it opaque. This is the monopole style communication tower. So this is what the City Council approved in the conditional use permit. And the design of the tower is meant to minimize the visual profile, because you have one single support pole with no guy wires or ironworks extending out from it, but there are external antennas on a platform at the top. And this is provided just for context of what's being accomplished here. The monopole will host T-Mobile's antennas and will be able to support antennas for up to 3 additional co-locations. That's the 4 main carriers that are FCC sanctioned and are required to provide service to various population counts. This is your, this is from sheet C2, and just an excerpt showing T-Mobile's equipment pad. And again, you can see that there's 2 cabinets in the upper right-hand corner of that pad, and then you can see the generator down below. So there's no structures being placed on the pads. And then there's the cable connections on a waveguide bridge going back to the monopole, which is that circle, and you can see the elevation there. Moving on to the RF package. This monopole is designed to serve 2 functions. And the first is that it's designed to replace coverage that was lost from a T-Mobile co-location on a city water tower that is being demolished. The water tower is still there at the moment, but they have at the direction of the city, they have decommissioned their co-location, so that way the city is free to demolish the water tower. And they have provided what's called a cell on wheel, or a COW, on DeLeon Boulevard, and that's currently triaging the area with continuity coverage. And what I mean by continuity coverage is that instead of having the big 8-foot by 2-foot antennas that can suck up the traffic, because cell towers are like roads and antennas are like roads, they only have so much physical capacity for connections. They have 3 small antennas, just 1 on each side, just trying to keep some signal out there. That COW will be removed once this monopole is brought on air. So it's constructed and T-Mobile's antennas are installed upon it and turned on. The other function for the monopole is to offload capacity strain from neighboring towers. And as I just said, towers are like roads, so we face a concurrency challenge just like just like the city does, in that we're always trying to stay concurrent with ever-increasing demand. This is important because a significant gap in service can arise from a lack of capacity. The FCC said this in Order 18-133, paragraphs 37 through 40. And the thought process is your signal can be, 4 bars and completely strong, but if the tower doesn't have the ability to actually take your data, take the connection with your call, you don't have coverage no matter how strong that signal is. And again, I know that you're not reviewing the use, but this is the how and why that we are here before you. So this is the current coverage in Titusville without the water tank, and I'm not showing the COW either because that will be going away. So these are just the permanent installations. In this map, up is north. You can see the street grid of Titusville off to the center right. And then you can see the coverage provided by T-Mobile's towers. There's one to the northwest, one to the west on Garden at the interstate, and one to the southwest. And in this area, green is reliable coverage, and yellow is unreliable for in-building. And that's the type of use pattern that you have here in an urban environment, is in-building. So you have to have coverage that matches the use pattern. Otherwise, again, you functionally don't have coverage. Then this is the proposed coverage. One thing that did come up in the conditional use hearing was the fact that there's an FPL tower to the south, and that was explored by T-Mobile in the period of time between the COW being approved and this application being filed. Unfortunately, that tower is not available for co-location. The height of the monopole is driven by coverage. So when you look at this, if you were to shorten the monopole, you would decrease that coverage area. And just to add some context, the COW itself is 102 feet tall, and that was technically 30 feet shorter than your water tower co-location because of differences in height between the 2 structures and also changes in terrain. And that's before you factor in the fact that you are shifting this further west away from your co-locations, particularly that western co-location out by the interstate. Moving into housekeeping, we've provided in the record an FAA determination of no hazard to air navigation, and also your airport authority has reviewed the monopole and will be completely dark at night. There's been no public comments received at my office from the public, and I believe staff has received none either. Moving on to the variance elements, and then I will let you move forwards to hearing other members of the public. Special conditions in the land or structure. I respectfully submit to you the network nature of cellular communications prevent the monopole from being moved out of the area. If I go further north out of the street grid, you're now leaving a gap to the south. If I move south, you start to create interference with the tower to the south because they have overlapping signal. Same thing with the east-west. Obviously, there's only so far you can move east anyways before you reach the water, but if you were to move west, you can already see the monopole struggling to cover the southeast along the waterfront. You would see more of that as you moved west. And that's because these are very small. These have very small coverage areas. This area was platted prior to your code and even prior to modern use patterns. And these are small lots, I would submit, to the point of obsolescence compared to your code. Again, the buildable envelope is smaller than this lectern. And I respectfully submit it's not possible to construct any M1 use on this property without some type of variance. Not product of the applicant. I respectfully submit that the lot configuration necessitates the variances. Again, anyone who's developing on that property is going to be coming before you for a variance of some type. No special privilege in the same zoning district. And I do respectfully disagree with your staff group on this one. I do submit that there would be no special privilege conveyed by this. Again, these variance requests sound in the small size of this lot, which predates your code and just doesn't work with the zoning. So it's not like we're on a 5-acre piece of land that's zoned M1 where we're saying we just don't want to adhere to the M1 standards. We're trying to create a reasonable build construction envelope within this parcel that has its own challenges. And again, your code ties back to the zoning district, not the physical lots of the area. Literal interpretation, the same rights as any other zoning district, and I would respectfully submit that the literal interpretation of this code deprives both T-Mobile and the landowner of rights that would commonly be enjoyed by owners of conforming lots in the M1 zoning district. If you had something that was providing a normal construction envelope, they would be able to construct this. And here what we're trying to do again is compensate for this very small lot. Minimum variance. Again, you heard that the height of the monopole is driven by coverage requirements. So if we were to shorten the monopole, we would be covering less, and you'd be moving. The more you shorten it, the more you necessitate additional towers. And again, with the compound, they're trying to create a compound that has the ability to co-locate and also isn't a bunch of gates on the western side. Preserve the spirit of the ordinance. This monopole is located in the center of the lot, so the attempt is to minimize the variance request by centering it and providing as much separation as possible. You also heard with the compound itself, we're not placing structures into those yard areas. We're placing traffic light sized equipment cabinets. We still provide the code required plantings for both the yard and the fence buffers to the west, and we still provide opaque buffering to the north and east, which are the spirit of the code with that. Public safety and welfare. I respectfully submit that the monopole will further the public welfare. Removing spaces that are out of the public view just seems to be common sense as far as landscape buffers on the north and east sides. And also the monopole itself will further public safety and welfare. So as we've gone along over the years, people have been what's been called cutting the cord, removing landlines and switching to a wireless economy. So you connect to the network with your cell phones, you connect, this computer's technically a cell phone. People connect for work, business, education. But just confining ourselves to phone calls themselves, in 2019, 88.5% of all 911 calls received in Orange County came from wireless phones. So what this shows is that this isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. No change of use. We are in agreement with your staff. We're not asking for a use variance. A matter of fact, the use itself was vested by your city council through the conditional use process, which is conforming with your code. So with that, T-Mobile respectfully requests the Board of Adjustment Appeals grants approval of the Monopulse variances as depicted in the staff report and the application to implement the city's approval of the project. And that concludes my presentation. I and Mr. O'Neill are available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Are there questions? And to reiterate, you did say there would not be a non-lighted, so there would not be a flashing light at night on this pole?
Matt and I, John, correct. That will be unlighted.
That will be, all right. Yes?
I don't have questions yet. I need to ask something of staff, so I can
Alright.
wait.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming up. And do we have any other applicants or anyone to speak
Craig O'Neill, if you had any questions.
about the poll? Did anyone have any questions technically?
Not yet.
Not seeing any at this time.
Understood.
Is there anyone else to speak?
No, sir.
Very good. All right, so we will close the public hearing at this time and allow you to ask your question for staff.
The image that was up there with the thin red line for the building envelope, does staff agree, or does the city agree that that is in fact what can be built on that property under M1 use?
So that is not a graphic that we produce.
I know.
So I wouldn't be able to answer on behalf of the city whether or not that's something that we agree with.
Can you ballpark that the buildable portion of that lot is somewhere close to that red line? Or is it totally off?
Looking at, the setbacks, 20 feet, 10 feet, that is such that in that area, you can, Chelsea, if you feel otherwise, you can let me know. But I think that's pretty accurate as far as the buildable envelope.
So would it be a fair statement that a realistic structure, a regular structure that we're used to dealing with at this board, would not be able to be built on such a lot?
With that type of buildable envelope, no, it wouldn't be.
Yes, sir.
Staff also, is there an existing building on the property at this time?
Yes.
And how big is it? Do you have any idea?
I don't have that number offhand, but I could pull that up for you.
But it's an existing non-conforming structure, is that what it is?
The lot is non-conforming,
Lot's non-conforming.
correct.
Structure was there a long time.
So there's actually nothing preventing someone from moving a different type of business into that building, as long as it meets the M1 criteria?
Correct.
Do we have a picture, like a real life picture of that lot?
Yeah, it was one of them.
Did I miss it?
You have an aerial on page 54.
54, yeah. You can blow it up.
Also another aerial on the actual aerial map on page, I want to say that's 63.
63. Do you know what's in 266?
On the lot?
There's a lot, 266, very large.
What's on Garden Street?
It's M2.
Let's see. 246 is a real estate office. 243 is for sale or has been just sold. It's been vacant. 265, no, you said 266.
266.
I don't see it. Is that on the other side of the road?
It's right here. It's diagonal from 268.
Oh, that's the concrete place.
Oh, okay.
May I ask Ms.
That's-
John to come back up?
If you wish. Yeah. Yeah, that's the concrete location.
Okay.
You indicated that there's already a fence on the, did you say east and north?
Yes, Matt Tenaya, John again. Board Member Rodriguez, yes, there is. They're neighboring property line fences.
Existing, yeah.
So landscaping would not be practical on those sides because there would be no space in between the two fences?
We respect, Matt Tenaya, John again, yes, we respectfully submit it wouldn't be practical. If you were to move the fence line in, you're literally just putting a landscape buffer between two chain link fences.
On both the west and the, or you said the east and the north, on both of those sides, that would be the outcome?
Yes, Board Member.
All right. I'm good, thank you.
To answer your question, the square footage, according to property records, 988 square feet for that existing structure.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other discussion or thoughts to share as we talk about this?
It seems to me that doing due diligence on this property before it was considered for this use, these non-consistencies with the code should have been apparent. Is there something that I'm missing here? I mean, my process would have been to go to the planning department, say, this is what I propose for this lot, and this is what we're gonna put on it. What are the conditions, requirements for building on this property? How do we get to this point without knowing these things ahead of time? And that question's open for anyone who wants to answer, if the applicant would like to answer.
Very well.
If you don't mind, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Matt Tenaya, John again. Board Member Willis, there actually was a previous parcel that was considered down at the south end of Iding that's owned by Spectrum Communications. It too would have required variances. It would have been a little more tucked away. Unfortunately, that landowner declined. One of the challenges that carriers have when you're trying to place a communication tower is that you have to be in a very specific location, and you are subject to the whims of property owners, whether they're willing to make their land available to you. If I had eminent domain powers, my life would be a lot easier because I'd pick where I need. Mr. O'Neill's life would be easier because he'd pick where he needs to go and I'd go get it. Unfortunately, we're stuck in this process where we're providing something that's functionally a piece of infrastructure in today's age, but we still have to take and find property owners that are willing to give up the space.
Thank you. Did that answer your question? All right, thank you very much. Yeah, trying to find a site
Yeah.
that you could put something like this on. I mean, the best place would be the middle of the concrete plant, but that'd kind of mess them up.
Well, that's why I was like, didn't know what was there.
Yeah, that is the concrete plant. And that's more property than they need for this, so.
Yeah.
Well, if we have no more discussion or questions, what would be the, now, as you said, we can vote this as just one instead of breaking it down into each little variance. Is that correct, Counselor? We can do that?
I would be okay with that. Based on the presentation and the concept presented, you could vote as a condition that it would be tied to the concept of the map that was presented in this application.
Thank you. Make it a lot easier.
Thank God.
All right, so what is the pleasure? I can't make the motion. 26, yeah. Not seeing any action here.
I'm reading.
Oh, we have reading going on, all right. Thank you.
For clarification, staff, is, the landscape that I saw in the image or somewhere, does that meet the suggestions and the analysis in this report? The landscape that was suggested on the west side?
So staff did make preliminary comments as far as landscape requirements and whether or not they meet the code. I haven't looked at that map specifically, but that should be meeting the comments that were submitted to the applicant so that for the landscaping.
So in order to ensure landscaping on the west side, is there something additional other than an approval of one of these particular variances? I just want to make sure I'm reading it right. This is requesting a variance of 10 feet for landscape yards along the interior property lines, eliminating the landscape yards. We're talking about
Yeah,
landscape on the outside of the fence.
correct.
You may.
Thank you. If I may make a suggestion, perhaps you could add a condition to your approval of the variances that it complies with the landscape plan that's included on file, because that would give you your planting counts and species and sizes by reference.
With city approval?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you very much.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
All of this landscaping that,
Turn your mic, please.
oops, sorry. The landscaping that we're discussing, I noticed
What slide are you on?
I'm on page 36, and it said the irrigation system, it's the last one, 337.
373.
373, hand watering in lieu of irrigation system.
Matt Tenai, John again. Yes, so your code allows for hand watering to be provided whenever you're providing Florida-friendly landscaping at either a variance approval or in certain instances, the approval of your staff director. We are proposing Florida-friendly landscaping that will be drought tolerant. So the way that we currently are proposing this is that T-Mobile would commit to a watering schedule. T-Mobile would commit to replace any plantings that failed during the process of taking hold. The thought process would be after that is that they would not need regular irrigation consuming city water because they would be established.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
my recommendation to the motion maker would be that if you are inclined to approve all of the requested variances,
Yes.
that you reference all landscape buffers, security fence buffers, and the irrigation system variance in the motion, so that all of that is captured, and reference also the concept presented in this application.
Thank you. So,
Go for it.
so that'll be a mouthful.
Yeah.
I don't believe we'll have any more questions. It's just a matter of wording it. Thank you.
As far as discussion, I just want to say that I'm generally fine with all of this, except if it's going to be fence to chain link fence and how that appears from the street, which I don't know how it appears from the street, there is a requirement for landscaping within the fence line, which might still be appropriate, although I did hear the explanation regarding crime. and hopefully a high security fence would solve that problem. But it shouldn't look just, chain link to chain link on slightly abandoned looking property. I don't know what can be seen from the street.
I don't think it'll be able to be seen if you have the screening at the street on the west side, because there is nothing.
Well, the west is
commercial.
fine because it's gonna have landscaping,
Yeah, but I mean, that's
east
the
and
only place
north.
you can see through.
Okay.
From the east and you'd have to be in the other people's backyard at that point to see the landscaping, and there's no roads or no access
Right.
for the public to see that property,
Okay.
so. Okay. Who can say a mouthful?
Council, if I'm going to move to approve this in its entirety, and I heard your reference regarding those 3 sections, do I need to state the bulleted list of the specific variances?
I'll leave that up to you, board member.
Here we go. All right. I will move to approve variance 15-2021 regarding the following variances. To allow less than the required 20-foot side corner yard setback for a variance of 4 feet 6 inches, reducing the corner yard setback to 15 feet 6 inches. To allow less than the required 10-foot interior side yard setback for a variance of 9 feet 5 inches, reducing the interior side yard setback to 7 inches. To allow less than the required 20-foot rear yard setback for a variance of 19 feet 5 inches, reducing the rear setback to 7 inches. To waive the requirement of an increased setback in exchange for each foot of additional building height as specified in Note 1 for a transmission tower. To allow less than the required 20-foot landscape yard along the public right-of-way for a variance of 15 feet, reducing the landscape yard to 5 feet. To allow a variance of 10 feet for landscape yards along the interior property lines, eliminating the landscape yards. And to allow less than required 10-foot setback for a high security fence, reducing the high security fence setback to 5 feet along the west and eliminating the high security fence setback along the east. With the conditions of the references to the irrigation, the security fence, and the landscaping buffers that have been referenced in this presentation, and any further landscape that has been submitted by the presentation with city approval.
Does that seem to meet everything, Counselor?
Yes, I believe so.
All right. So we've had a motion. Do we have a second, please?
I second it.
All right, we have a second. Is there any further discussion or understanding? Nope. May we have roll call, please?
Member Van Deven?
Yes.
Member Wheelis?
No.
Alternate member Van Ziljajon?
Yes.
Chairman Taylor?
Yes?
Vice Chairman Smith Rodriguez?
Yes.
All right, so we have it passed. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right.
Member Wheelis, for the record, please state your no. Basis for your no.
That the variance request confers upon the applicant special privileges denied by the ordinance to other lands and buildings and structures in the same zoning district.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, moving along now. Our next variance up is variance number 18-2021 with a physical address of 2585 Longwood Court for adding a bedroom addition. And what page does that start on, please, sir? 87?
97, the
97.
staff report begins on page 99.
All right, 97. All right, thank you. Yes, sir. Tell us what we need to know.
So the applicant, Hank Leiter, is requesting a variance to the LER section 28-304C to allow a variance of 224 square feet to exceed the maximum 35% building coverage for room addition at property located in the single-family medium density zoning district at 2585 Longwood Court. The surrounding districts are to the north, south, east, and west, single-family medium density. The lot characteristics, the property is 5,663 square feet, which is less than the minimum 7,500 square feet required for a lot in the R1B zoning. The lot has 53 feet of frontage on Longwood Court, and per section 28-304C, the minimum required lot width in the R1B zoning district is 75 feet. The property is a non-conforming lot of record and is irregular in shape. Once again, I've gone over the powers of the BAA, so I'll skip ahead to the analysis. The applicant is requesting a variance to allow an additional 224 square feet for the development of a room addition at property located in the R1B zoning district. Per section 28-304C, the maximum building coverage requirement in the R1B zoning district is 35%. The applicant states that due to the size of the home, as a result of the lot configuration, they are limited in the amount of square footage and the location that any additions to the home can be made. The applicant stated that the proposed addition is for a bedroom and bathroom that will be located at the side rear of the home. The size of the proposed room addition measures 300 square feet. The room addition will not encroach into the 10-foot interior side yard setback and the existing 5-foot public utility and drainage easement. According to county records, the lot was platted in 1965 and the home was developed in 1979. The lot does not meet the minimum 75-foot lot width requirement in the R1B zoning. The lot is irregular in shape, yet it is similar to surrounding lot configurations as the house is located on a cul-de-sac road. So the existing home measures 1,906 square feet, with an available 76 square feet remaining for the until they reach that maximum building coverage. Should the variance be granted, the home will have a total of 2,206 square feet, which is 4% above the maximum 35% requirement in the R1B zoning. So staff does recommend approval of the request to allow the variance of 224 square feet to exceed the maximum 35% building coverage. In granting the variance, special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. The lot does not meet the minimum lot width requirement in the R1B zoning and is a non-conforming lot of record. In addition, the granting of the variance will preserve the spirit of the ordinance and remain in harmony with its general purpose and intent. Although surrounding lots are similar in configuration, the lot and home in question measure smaller in lot size. Thus, an addition of 224 square feet should remain compatible with the surrounding home sizes in the area. So if we refer to page 105 of the agenda, that'll kind of give you some direction as far as where that room addition is being made on the lot itself. It's to the rear of the home on the side, and it is outside of that setback and the 5-foot public utility and drainage easement. And that addition would once again be 4% above the 35% building max. And that concludes our presentation.
So by today's code, if they were building this subdivision, this would not be allowed, is that correct? Because of the 75 feet?
That's correct.
Okay. Other questions of staff? All right, I see no other questions, so we'll open it up to the public. Do we have a card, please?
Yes, sir. Hank Leader.
Very good, sir. If you would please come to the mic and give us your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Hello, my name is Hank Leader. I'm at 2111 Trias Drive, Mims, Florida.
Yes, sir.
What can I do for you? Any questions?
Well, this is an addition to the home for what reason? I'm sorry.
Well, she has never had it onto this home. She's the original owner. Her and her husband built it back in the 70s. She needs a little bit more room, so we proposed a small bedroom bathroom addition that would fit on the lot and still conform with, the existing structure. Again, it's less than 300 square feet. We can just barely squeeze it in and meet all the setback requirements and everything. Then we came up with a minimum square footage allowed for that size lot. So it's only 4% over. So we're just requesting the variance to give us that extra 4%. We've reduced it to where it's at the minimum to be a functional bedroom-bathroom combination.
Okay.
So we're stuck between a rock and a hard place here.
Yeah, with that irregular size, it's kind of hard to squeeze it in.
It is a
and-
very odd lot, but it was platted back in the 60s, so.
Right. Are there further questions? Yes, sir.
Mr. Leader,
Yes.
were you able to make a design that conforms with the rest of the structure? In other
Yes,
words,
we were.
Make something that,
We did. We came up with a good architectural design. It conforms with the back of the house, ties in with the rest of the flow throughout the house to get to the bedroom, and also with the existing pool and cage in the back. It ties in nicely with that. It'll be a compliment to the neighborhood, I think.
if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
In doing that, did you address possibly some ADA adjustments to the bathroom as you're putting them in?
Well, at this point, she doesn't have any ADA requirements. Mrs. Smith is a very active elderly woman, and the other people that possibly may be living with her are her sons and daughters, so they're younger. So
I see.
at this time, there's not a need for any ADA.
I understand.
But if we do need it in the future, it could easily be installed.
That was my question.
Okay, sorry.
Are there further questions of this witness? All right, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
We have another card.
Linda Smith?
She's my customer.
I don't think I need you. I just wanted to have some.
Very good. All right, no other cards in, correct?
No, sir.
All right, then we will close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. Any further questions of staff or anything about? Okay. Then Chairman will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve variance request number 18, 2021, 2585 Longwood Court as requested.
All right, we have a motion. Do I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay. May we have roll call?
Member Wheelis?
Yes.
Alternate member Van Zildejan?
Yes.
Chairman Taylor?
Yes?
Vice Chairman Smith Rodriguez?
Yes.
Member Van Deven?
Yes.
Very good. So that is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
What did I do wrong? It's not 25, it's back to, I don't know, where are we? Can't keep up anymore.
118.
118, thank you. Dip.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, thank you. Okay, next up is variance number 19-2021, and that address is 6245 Riverfront Center Boulevard. So staff, would you enlighten us on, oh yeah, I know where that is. Okay, go ahead.
All right, so staff report begins on page 119. The applicant, Robert Worrells, is requesting a variance to LDR Section 32-45, Planned Industrial Development, to allow more than one wall sign per building, to allow a wall sign to exceed the maximum 32 square feet allowable in size, and to allow a ground sign to exceed the maximum 60 square feet allowable in the PID zoning district, located at 6245 Riverfront Center Boulevard. The surrounding zoning districts are to the north. I'm sorry, give me 1 second. To the north and south, PID, Planned Industrial Development. To the west, Vector Space Boulevard and Planned Industrial Development. And to the east, Open Space and Recreation. The lot characteristics The property meets the minimum lot size requirement in the PID zoning district. The property measures just over 9 acres in size with 400+ linear feet of frontage on Vector Space Boulevard. The lot is rectangular in shape, which includes a portion of the lot that extends east towards the Indian River Lagoon. A commercial building under construction is the existing use on the lot. And I'll go ahead and move ahead to the analysis. The applicant is requesting variances to the following sections of the code for the placement of signs for a proposed hotel. Variances are as followed. That the Marriott Hotel ground sign located at the east entry of the development be increased to 92.1 square feet. Section 32-45A to B states that signs should not be higher than 8 feet from the ground level nor exceed 60 square feet in area. The applicant is requesting a variance of 32.1 square feet for the monument sign. The applicant is also requesting that 2 additional wall signs be located at the north and east elevations of the building. Section 32-45A3 of the code states that only 1 wall sign shall be permitted per building. The 2 signs are in addition to the 1 wall sign permitted at the west elevation of the building. The applicant also requests that the size of the wall signs at the north and west elevations be increased to 66.6 square feet, and that the wall sign at the east elevation be increased to 50 square feet. Section 32-45A3B states that signs shall not be larger than 32 square feet. The applicant is requesting a variance of 34.6 square feet for the north and west elevation wall signs, and a variance of 18 square feet for the east elevation. According to the applicant, the restrictions of the sign regulations in the PID, as opposed to the commercial zoning district, present a hardship in having the building properly identified. The applicant states that in addition to the regulation of the sign ordinance, setback requirements, landscaping, and the configuration of the building on the lot, there is no visibility for the signage on the building. In addition, the PID regulations for monument signs deem the sign unidentifiable. The applicant is requesting a variance for 2 additional wall signs located at the north and east elevations of the building. The applicant states that the proposed north elevation sign would only be visible when traveling east on State Road 405. Thus, the request for the additional wall sign at the east elevation of the building. In doing so, motorists and passerbys will be able to identify the building when traveling in either direction. The request for the enlarged monument sign, according to the applicant, is due to the fact that the monument sign is not visible from State Road 405 or U.S. Highway 1. The building stands 5 stories high at 60 feet and 6 inches, and the 24-inch high flush-mounted channel letters that are proposed to be installed the 24-inch high flush-mounted channel letters are proposed to be installed per code requirements. According to the applicant, a typical 5-story high building would be permitted to have mounted channel letters measuring between 36 and 60 inches high. The development is positioned towards the south end of the lot. The building is south of the Lockheed Martin building, which in addition to the existing landscaping can serve as a visual barrier for signage. So staff does recommend approval of the request to allow a variance of 32.1 square feet for a monument sign to measure 92.1 square feet. The request for additional wall signs at the north and east elevations of the building, and to allow the size of the wall signs at the north and west elevations be increased to 66.6 square feet, and the wall sign at the east elevation be increased to 50 square feet. The granting of the variance will preserve the spirit of the ordinance, as the location of the proposed signs and their size will not serve as a detriment to the surrounding commercial properties. In addition, the literal interpretation of the provisions of the ordinance would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same zoning district under the terms of the ordinance. The lot configuration is on a curvature right-of-way, which makes it difficult for motorists to identify the original sign with increasing or replacing additional signs on the building. So, looking at page 139, that will give you an idea of where on the building the applicant is looking to have those signs in question be placed. It's page 139. If I can find it myself. There we go. And I believe on the agenda that's flipped around. I'm not sure if is that what you guys seeing? It's on its side. Sorry about that. Trying to figure out how we can rotate that. There it is. All right, so we see that courtyard sign would be proposed at the very top of the building, and for the 66.6 square feet sign, and the 19.663 square feet sign would be placed at the lower end of the building. On page 138, I'm sorry, I skipped ahead. On page 138, we see where on the lot those signs would be proposed. Obviously, we have the sign at the entry for the ground side, and the north elevation sign at the very top of that of the building. In addition to the sign on the west side of the building. Page 141 details the ground sign itself for the 92 square feet that's being requested, or for the request for this ground sign to measure 92 square feet. And that concludes my presentation.
Other questions of staff?
I'm sorry, sorry to interrupt. And this is just like variance 15, where you do have the option to make an approval based on one or all variances altogether.
Thank you. Yes, yes,
Is
ma'am.
this variance request similar to the ones that were requested and granted on US 1 with the, I can't think of the hotel's name right down there, to expand the size of
That was
the,
Lockheed Martin.
there's a
the one
hotel
that-
down there too.
Oh, the hotel.
I didn't work on that sign, so I'm.
Place, I think it's called, something like that.
Hold
Hi.
on, you'll come up in a moment. Okay.
I think the applicant wants to answer your
And
question.
the variance that was recently approved for Lockheed, is that in the same neighborhood?
Correct. That's also in the PID.
You're correct, there was one for a hotel in that same area, yes.
All right. Any other questions, staff? Okay. No, what, no, call 4 point, it was, let's see, whatever it is. There it is. Okay, so no other questions of staff. We'll open up to the public, and our first card is,
Robert Worrells.
very good, sir. You have all the answers for us, right?
Mr. Chairman, thank you, board members. Robert Worrells, 580 Gusset Boulevard, Rockledge, Florida, 32955. As staff has mentioned, we're asking for this variance. Courtyard Marriott, we are moving in across from the Police Hall of Fame and right next to Lockheed Martin. To answer those questions, it is the Hyatt place that was referenced. They obviously got a variance for a very substantial large amount of signage on 2 street frontages, both east and west. They are actually at 166.5 square feet on each elevation. Very large letters. Their letters are over 48 inches, which is a great visual impact based on visibility letter height charts, both standstill as well as traveling. We're asking for this variance for these signs. I'll start on the west elevation, the west elevation, our main entry sign. We're only at the 66 square feet. We have a 24-inch letter that says courtyard. We have 8-inch letters that say by Marriott, which is our branding guideline standards for all courtyards by Marriott across the country. Now, if I round that at 8 inch something up to 9 inches, maximum visibility, legible, lit LED illumination at night is only 90 feet. At a 24-inch letter, maximum visibility is only 180 feet. And that's standstill. And that number goes down if you're driving past. Speed limits at 35, 45, they start drastically shrinking. So we wanted to get that out there to get our brand. We're very restricted on visibility. We, unlike some of our direct competitors in the market, we don't have a direct access to neither 405 nor the US 1 because we are kind of tucked back behind the Lockheed Martin right there because Courtyard is a partnership with Delaware North. That's actually who is the land owner. And what we're doing here is obviously we want to get our branding out there and our visibility out there. And what audience that we're trying to capture by doing this is we not only want the visitors to the Space Center that go onto the center, but we want to start offering places to stay and entertainment for the guests that are going to the visitors complex. There's not a lot of hotels or lodging in the area, so we think this is a great benefit for the area. We're going to capture that audience. We want to make it easier for them. We want them to stay a couple of days, enjoy both the Space Coast, our area attractions, and obviously spend their monies within the city because they're right here. They're going to have to come to the city for most of any of their outings, shopping, dinings. So obviously visibility is important to us on that west elevation. The smaller sign on that same elevation at the 19 square foot, it is actually an illuminated custom designed medallion. And it's going to be for a brand called the Space Bar, which is a separate entity to the Courtyard by Marriott. Just so happens to be in the hotel. Now, this is actually, if you ever walk it into the opening doors of the hotel, this will be just off to the right where there is a public secondary entry door. And it'll be set just about 4 or 5 feet to the bottom, and then it'll be about 6, 7 feet tall after that, finished height, above a nice plush landscaped area. So it's appealing. The reason for this signage is, one, the Space Bar is a separate entity in the hotel. It has a separate entrance that's open to the general public anytime. That's what that secondary door's for. When you walk into the lobby, you're going to be introduced to great space themes. This area of the hotel was designed specifically for the location and that visitors complex. Again, it's open to the public. You take that elevator straight to the top, up to the rooftop, and now it opens up to not only the Space Bar, but a complete viewing area for all launches, which we're using obviously for an attraction point to get the guest in, want them to stay here. Come visit the visitor center, and with the many launches as we see and are going to foresee, I think it's going to be great for local and out-of-town guests, and keep them right here in our area. Going to the north elevation, this is the elevation that's facing Lockheed Martin. We are impeded by all sorts of landscaping, tall trees, power lines, and Lockheed Martin's building itself, from the visual impact straight to 405. So what we're wanting to capture there is coming across the bridge and going to the bridge. So guests will only can at least catch a glimpse of where we're at there, because without that, we have zero visibility on 405. And our concern with that is that our guests traveling, already excited or already tired, are going to have struggles with trying to find the hotel and their lodging for the night, which in return is going to be a negative response and feel, and that's absolutely not what we want to achieve. On the east elevation, facing the lagoon, that elevation, the sign proposed there is actually for the Space Bar, and that's what it reads, the Space Bar. And it's captured on the opposite end of a big, large space mural that's going to the north end of that deck area. It'll be on the opposite end, on the south end, and that is to capture both photo opportunities for visitors, tourists alike, as well as to help capture some of that audience coming in, because the Space Bar is going to be marketed and advertised as together with the Courtyard of Marriott. We feel that we kept the signs as minimal as possible to capture the best visibility without trying to exceed the code, and it asks for too large of a variance to achieve what we're trying to achieve visible-wise. Last but not least, on the monument, after further look and surveying around and measuring, I myself actually measuring every monument in that district, we have, Marriott team has came back, and we went back to our design team, and we would like to just amend that variance request out and stick with the allowable 60 square feet, which will put us in a very close size layout of the Hyatt Place, which is obviously our direct competitor in that market, and much more smaller in comparison to the Boeing sign, which takes out the 6 feet by the whole 10 feet. As we know, Boeing also has, on top of the Marriott, has large signage on their one elevation. They're probably exceeding 200 or so square footage. Unfortunately, I tried to get an opportunity to get a survey done on that, and I was declined by Boeing for apparent reasons. But with that said, we think that is very beneficial, again, to not only the area but these tourists. And that's what this hotel was specifically placed here for and specifically designed for. Even the exterior elevator shaft of the elevator that takes you up to the watch deck is painted, will be painted color scheme to the rockets, the white and the black. To kind of differentiate both the Courtyard and the Marriott from that entity, due to the fact that it's open to general public without being a guest at the hotel. I think I covered everything. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you. I thank you.
Are there any questions of the applicant? So as far as your ground sign, that is not a part of the variance now, it's just...
No, we would like to, we'd like to admit and redact that out of there. We feel that 60 square foot is fair, we can achieve it. We can't really gain any more by that extra just due to the fact of where we're located.
Yeah.
Because once you come in off of 405 or you make that roundabout coming in off of US 1, you're gonna see us. It's a nice branded sign. And we're gonna make sure it looks beautiful, and obviously it comes with all the plush landscaping that any nice hotel would like their guests to pull into, so. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Are there any other cards? And I see
No,
none.
sir.
So we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the group if we have questions of staff or discussion. No? Okay, well, then I will entertain a motion. Please.
I'll move to approve variance 19-2021 at 6245 Riverfront Center Boulevard regarding section 32-45 to allow more than one wall sign per building and to allow a wall sign to exceed a maximum 32 square feet allowable in size. As I understand, those are the only two remaining requests in this variance.
All right.
I'm sorry, I missed that. I was taking notes.
I believe there were 3 requests in the variance, one of which has been withdrawn, the monument sign, yes?
Yes.
Leaving the 2 remaining requests, did I get them both? I think I did.
Yes. you
Okay,
did.
then I'm good, my
Well,
motion.
actually, there's a request for, one request was for the west elevation for a more allowable square footage on the entry sign, as well to allow that secondary 19 square foot medallion sign for the space bar entry. And then the request 3 would be for the north elevation to allow that signage, And two, to allow the additional 32 square foot allowable square footage.
Okay, let me rephrase.
And also for the first one where you say more than one, can you specify 2 additional?
Yes, I was gonna say, in accordance with the plan, okay.
Oh.
Amended variance, approval 19/2021, to allow more than one wall sign per building, maximum of 2, and to allow a wall sign to exceed a maximum 32 square feet allowable in size pursuant to the proposal issued in this variance request. It's okay, it's not
Okay.
perfect, but it's okay.
Thank you, sir.
So does
All
that
right.
cover all of our
Yes,
elevations?
yes.
So it's all 4 building signs? Because there's 4 building signs in total.
Yeah, they're all on,
Okay, okay, I just want to make
They're all
sure
on
I
there.
understood that
yeah.
correctly.
Wait a minute, is that right?
We have a problem here, I think. In looking at the application, the verbiage in your application says the applicant is requesting 2 additional wall signs to be located at the north and east elevations of the building.
Right.
You're allowed 1, so they'll have a total of 3. Is that correct?
We're asking for 4, but I understand how the application is reading. So if that was to be a concern and we would go back to a total of 3 wall signs, we would ask that we be allowed to have 2 on the west elevation, 1 on the north elevation, and we'll strike the east elevation facing the lagoon sign. And that would allow us 3 signs.
What page are you
There's-
on?
121.
121, okay.
This is from the staff report. Ground sign.
Sir, when you say 4, you're not including the monument sign, correct?
No, that is correct.
Okay,
yes.
so
4 building signs, 2 west elevation, which would be Courtyard by Marriott branding, channel letters on top, on the roof line, and then the smaller medallion sign by the entry door. And then 1 set of channel letters on the north elevation with the Marriott branding. The 4th signage would be on the east elevation, rooftop, facing east, with reading the space bar.
Okay.
I apologize about the confusion on the application. I never noticed that either.
So the one on the west is just the medallion, the smaller one, which is down at ground level.
Yes, yes, sir.
And the other one that you're wanting is up high, facing east, saying space bar also.
Yes, so, yeah, on the opposite side of the hotel,
Opposite.
facing the lagoon and the visitor complex.
Correct.
Right there.
So on page 121, the second bullet, my interpretation based on the testimony is that the applicant is requesting 3 additional wall signs to be located, the medallion on the west, the north Marriott sign, and then the east elevation, but he's willing to withdraw the east if you guys are willing to only allow 2 additional wall signs. Is that the correct understanding?
That is correct, yes. Not take it away that we don't desire to have that east elevation because it's an attraction point for us, trying to bring in the attraction off of 405 and visitors leaving the complex. Because what we wanted to do there was, again, kind of separate the Marriott to the Space Bar as own entity because it's an attraction point on itself.
Correct.
And it'll be marketed with the hotel.
So it's either we go with, you want allowed in 3 extra or 1 allowed in 2 extra. Is that's our choices too.
Yes.
Discuss amongst yourselves. Yeah, the request is for a total of 4 signs.
I have no objection to having the 3 additional. It seems very reasonable. My only question was that the verbiage didn't match what we were saying.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, thank you, sir. I apologize about that.
Well, that's good clarification now that we get it. We
Yeah.
understand what we're voting on and what gets voted on, so. what
Okay.
we
Yes, sir.
want.
So
So-
amended up to 3. I read the line and not identifying the image. So, yeah, it'd be 3 additional,
3 additional, okay.
yeah.
So the motion is amended to say 3 additional signs, correct? And we don't even talk about the monument sign because that's off the board now,
Right.
right?
He's withdrawn it, yes.
Yeah, he was through that part. Any other, all right, so we had a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
You have a second. All right, great. Any further discussion? All right. May we have roll call, please?
Vice Chairman Smith Rodriguez.
Yes.
Member Van Deven.
Yes.
Member Wheelis.
Yes.
Alternate Member Van Zildjian.
Yes.
Chairman Taylor.
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board, thank you for your time, and we look forward to it.
Just point of reference, what's your timeline looking like?
We're actually going to be releasing, we had pre-production already planned out in hopes that we got in our favor here, and we are going to substantial completion by end of year, signage to be installed in the next couple of weeks pending permit approval, so as soon as permit approval comes through, we're getting really close. Furnishings are coming in now, final inside touches. And then exterior's coming around. We have some final crane lifts on the 15th, and then all high equipment will be out, and we'll start moving into the final touches. We're trying
First of the year then.
Yeah,
so-
we're trying to, the first 2 weeks of January, hopefully accept the first guest, or at least have a pre-opening gathering for the community and kind of show them. The space bar is really going to be interesting. And again, it's probably one of the most magnificent attractions that we're going to have outside of that visitor complex that's right here. And we're excited about the growth for Titusville. It was chosen for a specific reason. And I think that economic impact is going to be great for our small business district. So being a local resident, I'm obviously concerned about that.
Well, thank you.
All right.
Appreciate the information
Hey,
and the update.
thank you again, and thank you.
All right.
Good night.
Good night. All right, so that closes our new business, and I don't see any public, unless you wish to speak, sir? No, he's shaking his head, no. He wants to go home. And we've already gone over the report. Do we have any update from staff? I think we'll be back to our regular schedule in January, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Any hint if you got any applications yet?
Did you get anything, Kim? Yeah, we haven't had anything. I was told that we're expecting an application for January, but we haven't received it
I
yet.
hadn't received it, okay. Anything from the members to?
Do we have, I guess I'd like to know, why was the sustainability project presented at a Board of Adjustments and Appeals meeting?
I'd be happy to answer that, because I was going to say something that Rachel, I didn't hear her say today. She's made this presentation to all of our boards. It's a get out the message opportunity to present this information, because it's a citywide initiative that we are looking for participation. And the best way to get participation is to let people know about what we're doing. And so she gave you all the link, tinyurl.com/Titusville SAP, which stands for Sustainability Action Plan.
Okay.
And it's important that you all check out that link and fill out the survey, which should only take like 3 to 5 minutes of your time. Share it with your friends so that we get as much of a comprehensive response to this survey as possible, so that we can cater to the community's needs and interests in how to become a more sustainable city. And so the best way that we saw to engage the community was through our boards, because our boards are our most active community members, and we hope that you will pass this message along to people who are not board members and get them to fill out the survey and share it with their friends, so that we can have as many ideas as possible and to have this be a successful initiative.
So if we wanted to share this, say, on our
Please share it on your
our
Facebook.
personal pages,
Absolutely.
websites, grab that first one with that URL, have it as a,
If you don't feel like typing in that URL, that barcode also, if you want to take a picture of that through your phone, it'll take you directly to the survey as well.
okay.
Isn't this something that's
Microphone.
That the public is participating in also?
Yes, that's what we're looking for.
Right.
Lots of community. lots
Okay,
of community
and
participation. And so the reason that she presented to the boards is just to get additional feedback from different folks from different parts of the community and to literally reach out to as many people as possible. She's having lots of meetings. I don't know that she referenced the December 9th meeting. Is that next week?
That's correct, and that will be held here as well in the same room.
And so that's a follow-up to introducing the project and having a public workshop, inviting the public to come in, provide more input.
I think I read about it on Talk of the Town.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting.
So thank you for listening, and reach out to Rachel or go to the website if you have any more questions.
All right. Well, I personally don't have anything else to add, except everybody has a Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year as we go to saying goodbye to 21, and hopefully 20 and 21 just go away. It'd be great. So we'll get a good 22 going strong. Seeing no other things, I'll call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Happy New Year, everyone. Happy holidays.